We saw footprints circling our camp all night. It happened in the Cascade Mountains last fall, October, I think. The air was that kind of cold where you feel it right through your socks, but not enough to stop you from breathing deep and pretending you're alive and not just existing. I'm not really the type to go solo camping, but I needed a break from my apartment, from my phone, from people. I'd just ended things with someone who, in hindsight, had been wearing 1,000 red flags I ignored because I liked the way she smiled at dogs. So yeah, I packed my gear, REI tent, borrowed Yeti cooler, some instant noodles and too many granola bars, and drove out toward a spot I'd seen on a random Reddit thread. No official name, just coordinates and a comment that said, "You'll either never want to leave or never come back." I laughed when I read that. Not so funny now. The first night was perfect. You know that eerie kind of peace? The trees don't move. The wind doesn't breathe. You can hear your own blood. I pitched my tent near a small creek, and the only sound was the water and the occasional rustle that was probably deer. I made a fire, ate like crap, and stared at the flames until my eyes hurt. I don't remember falling asleep. The second day, I hiked about 5 miles uphill just to say I did. I didn't see anyone. Not a soul. I remember thinking it was weird because it wasn't that far from the trailhead. The place should have had at least a few other loners like me. The kind who run from things and pretend they're reconnecting with nature. But I liked the silence. Until I didn't. When I got back to my camp, something was off. My lighter was gone. I don't mean it fell or I dropped it. I left it inside my tent. Inside the tent, zipped shut. But it wasn't there. Nothing else was touched. I told myself I forgot it on the hike, or maybe a raccoon somehow got in, though there was no hole, no scratches. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the dark fabric of my tent ceiling, counting every tiny sound. At one point, I heard what sounded like 2 slow footsteps in the brush behind me. Then nothing. I didn't get out. I didn't move. I barely breathed. Eventually, I passed out from pure exhaustion. Then came the third night. Around dusk, while gathering wood, I saw someone on the other side of the creek. They were just standing there, not moving, not waving, just watching. I called out a dumb, "Hey man, what's up?" kind of thing. No reply. I waved. Still nothing. I turned for maybe 3 seconds to drop the wood in the fire pit, and when I looked back, gone. No movement, no sound of retreat, just empty woods. Now my nerves were shot. I built the fire too big, too fast, ate without tasting, drank a full flask of bourbon I'd meant to stretch for the weekend. I told myself over and over, it was just another hiker, a loner like me, probably just as creeped out seeing me. But when I crawled into my tent that night, I saw them again. Footprints, circling the tent, not fresh, not old, just there, in the dirt. A full circle, not a trail leading to or from, just a circle around my tent. I sat in the dark for what felt like hours, gripping the tiny pocket knife I brought, like that would do anything. Listening to the wind and the creak of branches above me. I swear to God I heard someone laugh, a low, breathy chuckle, like they were crouched just outside the tent wall. It only lasted a second. Then it was gone. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. The next morning, the firewood I gathered was gone. The rest of the bourbon, gone. My boots, wet. I had no idea how or why. And worst of all, my car keys were missing. I wasn't alone out there. And whoever was with me, they weren't trying to be friendly. I tore through my bag like a lunatic, emptied every goddamn pocket, ripped open my cooler, pulled up my sleeping bag, my camp chair. Hell, I even checked under my tent. Nothing. No keys. For a minute I thought maybe I dropped them by the creek. Maybe they fell out of my jacket while I was gathering wood. But that didn't explain the footprints, or the missing bourbon, or why my boots were soaked when it hadn't rained and I hadn't stepped in the water. The logic didn't add up. And that's when the panic started to bleed in. I stuffed everything I could into my pack, left the tent behind and started down the trail. But my boots felt weird. They were heavy, like something had been stuffed inside. I stopped, pulled one off. Inside, wedged tight in the toe, was my missing lighter. I dropped it like it burned me. Someone had put it there. Someone had been close enough to touch my things, close enough to watch me sleep. I sprinted down the path. I don't know how long. I just ran. I wasn't even on the right trail anymore. Half of the forest looked the same. At some point I stopped to breathe, knees shaking, chest tight. And that's when I saw it. Off to the side of the trail, almost buried under some brush, was a tent. Not mine, and not the kind you buy from REI. This thing looked like it had been there for years. Sun-bleached, mouldy, patched up with duct tape and plastic sheets. One side was collapsed, the other sagged like something heavy had slept in it. I should have kept walking, but I didn't. I pushed the flap open. Inside, garbage. Layers of wrappers, rotten food, empty water bottles. All kinds of brands like Costco trail mix, Walmart jerky, off-brand energy bars. Some of it was recent, really recent. Then I saw clothes, not neatly folded, stuffed in piles. Men's clothes, women's clothes, a kid's shirt, all sizes, all stained with dirt, or worse. There were photos, clipped to a string with binder clips, strung across the inside like a creepy gallery, blurry Polaroids. Most were of trees, tents, campfires, but some were of people sleeping. One photo was of a couple curled in a double sleeping bag, another of a guy by a fire looking directly at the camera, confused mid-sentence, and one was me, taken last night. Through the mesh of my tent, I could see the Yeti cooler, the half-empty fire pit, my own face, half-shadowed, looking right into the camera like I knew. I backed out, tripped, fell on my arse. Something crunched under me. Another photo. I picked it up. It was me again. Only in this one, I was brushing my teeth, facing away from the tent, from the exact time I thought I was alone. I started to cry. I don't even know why. I wasn't sad. I was just done. Something in me cracked. You ever get that feeling like your body knows you're about to die, even before your brain catches up? That was me. Every cell screaming, run, I bolted, took the first path I saw, whether it was right or not. My lungs felt like they were tearing, but I couldn't stop, not even when I heard someone whistling. Yeah, whistling. Not a song, just 4 notes, over and over, slow, deliberate. I couldn't see them, but I could feel them moving, keeping pace just out of sight. I didn't stop. Not when I tripped. Not when I slammed my shin into a rock so hard it split open. Not even when I puked in the dirt from panic. The whistling never sped up, never got closer, just followed, all the way until the sun started to dip behind the trees, and then it stopped. Dead silence. I didn't know where I was anymore. No signal, no GPS. My phone was in my pack, and I hadn't looked at it once because I knew what I'd see. No bars, no map, just me, bleeding, exhausted and lost in the middle of the Cascade Woods. I found a flat spot and collapsed. I didn't have a fire. I didn't have a tent. Just a knife and a slowly dying phone battery. I remember whispering to myself, you just have to make it till daylight. But then I saw it, just 10 feet away. A fresh footprint, not mine, barefoot, deep, pressed into the damp soil like they were watching me. Again. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Just stared at the print like if I looked away it would multiply. It wasn't a boot. No tread, no sock imprint. It was bare. You could see each toe, each little arch and heel line, so perfect and clean it didn't make sense. No normal person would be walking around barefoot in these woods. Not this far out. Not in October. And it wasn't just one footprint. There was a second, about 5 feet behind me. Then another, and another, circling again. Wide at first, then tightening like a noose. Like whoever or whatever was out there liked watching people try to sleep. That was the first time I realized. I hadn't heard a single bird all day. No crickets, no owls, just wind and breathing and my own heartbeat. It was almost dark now. The kind of dark where shadows turn into things and the trees feel alive. I knew I needed shelter, but there was nothing. No caves, no cabins, just me. This patch of dirt and whatever barefoot psycho had taken an interest in me. So I did the only thing I could. I crawled under a thick pine with low hanging branches, covered myself with leaves and my jacket, and tried to disappear. It was stupid. I knew it. If someone wanted to find me, they would, but hiding, even badly, felt better than just sitting out there like bait. I was drifting in and out of panic sleep when I heard it again, whistling, 4 notes, not in any tune I knew, not cheerful, just this broken, lazy loop. I held my breath. It was closer now, maybe 20 feet. I couldn't see through the branches, but I could hear movement. Crunching leaves, then nothing. Then a soft whisper of fabric, like someone slowly dragging a jacket across the ground. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they could hear it. Then I heard my name. I swear to God, someone whispered my name. Not loud, not angry, just soft, like they were trying not to wake the trees. Hey, I know you're out here. I don't even remember deciding to move. I just ran. No light, no direction, just instinct. The branches tore at my arms. I tripped twice, maybe 3 times. Got up each time like a maniac. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to be somewhere else. At some point, I found a path. It wasn't wide, but it was real. And on it were boot prints, deep, fresh ones. I followed them like a lifeline. They led to a clearing. In the middle was a small wooden shack. No lights, no windows, just one door. But there was smoke, faint but real, coming from a busted chimney. I should have run the other way. But you have to understand, in that moment, a roof was salvation. 4 walls were sanctuary. Anything not a tree felt like a blessing. I approached slowly, like an animal, crouched low. No sound. I tapped the door with my knife. Nothing. I pushed it open. Inside was warmth. A fire, small but alive, burned in a makeshift hearth. There was a cot covered in ratty blankets, a table with a half-eaten can of beans, and in the corner, a radio. Old school, battery-powered, crackling with static. I stepped in, shutting the door behind me like it could actually keep danger out. I didn't think. I just dropped my pack, collapsed on the floor, and started crying. And then I heard breathing. Not mine. It was coming from under the cot. I froze. For a second, I thought it was my own panic playing tricks. But then the blanket moved, slowly, like someone was trying to stay hidden, but didn't know I was there. I backed up, reaching for the door handle, and then I saw the foot, a human foot, pale, dirty, bare, just sticking out from under the cot. Whoever it was, wasn't asleep. They were waiting. I turned to run, yanked open the door, and someone was standing right outside. A man, filthy, gaunt, wearing a giant camo jacket that didn't fit. His face looked like it hadn't seen soap in a year. His eyes didn't blink. He smiled at me and said, "I was wondering when you'd get here." I couldn't scream. My throat locked. My brain tried to convince me this was a hallucination, that I hadn't slept in 2 days, that I was concussed or dehydrated or just plain losing it. But the man was real. He stood there with that crooked grin, dead eyes locked on mine, like he'd already written the ending of my story. His jacket was filthy, zipped halfway up over a bare chest streaked with grime and old scratches, and in his right hand, he held my car keys. "Drop your bag," he said, softly, too softly, like he didn't want to wake whoever, whatever, was still under the cot behind me. I didn't drop it. I threw it at his face and ran. I didn't wait to see if he flinched. I just pushed past him with everything I had. He grabbed at my sleeve, and for a split second I felt his nails dig into my skin. I swung my arm so hard I heard fabric rip, and I bolted. Down the trail. No direction, just away. Behind me I heard footsteps. Not sprinting, no, not him. He wasn't running. He was following. Like he knew I'd tire out before he did. Like he enjoyed the chase. And then, laughter. Not his. From the trees. Multiple voices. Soft, high-pitched, almost childlike. I looked back once. There were others. 3, maybe 4 shadows, all in different directions, barefoot, thin, moving in sync like wool. I didn't understand how or why, but I wasn't just being followed. I was being herded. My legs burned. My lungs felt like glass. I wasn't built for this. I work from home. I sit for a living. I eat Hot Pockets at 2 a.m. I was not the kind of guy who makes it out of horror stories. Eventually, the trail forked. One path dropped toward what I hoped was a stream. The other climbed, steep, rocky. I chose the climb, figured if I could get to higher ground, I'd get cell service, or a view, or something. That hill was hell. Every step felt like my body was quitting. My leg, the one that slammed into the rock earlier, was bleeding again. I didn't care, I just climbed, hands and feet, dirt in my mouth, until I reached the top. Nothing, just more trees, more goddamn forest. I collapsed, not to rest, just because I had nothing left. I laid there, sobbing into the pine needles, waiting for them to find me. I was ready. I was done. Then my phone buzzed. I pulled it out with shaking hands. One bar, one, single, bar. I opened Google Maps. My fingers barely worked. I dropped it once, picked it up, dropped it again. I got a location, about 5 miles from the road. 5 more miles, then a ping, a text, from an unknown number. Nice climb. You look tired. Attached was a photo, me, from behind, taken 30 seconds ago. The phone slipped from my hand. I didn't hear them approach, just a soft rustle, a breath behind my ear, a whisper, "We like this spot." I turned. Nobody. Then I saw it, on a nearby tree, a carving, fresh, my name, and below it, "Stay," and underneath, scratched hastily in the bark, almost like it was written while someone was laughing too hard to hold the knife steady, "You were always going to end up here." I ran until I forgot how, until running wasn't even a choice anymore. Just what my body did while my brain shut down to protect me from the reality of what was happening. But you can't outrun the woods. They wrap around you, bend paths, erase trails. Every direction becomes the same. Trees grow eyes. Branches claw at your shirt like they want you to stay. I don't know how long I ran. Time got weird. I'd black out and wake up still moving, still bleeding. At some point, I realized I'd circled back. I recognized a broken stump with a blue sticker on it, the same one I passed hours ago. I wasn't being followed anymore. I was being led. And that's when I heard the voice again. Not the soft whispering from before. This time it was louder, hoarse, desperate. "Help, please, is anyone out there?" It echoed through the trees. A woman, her voice cracking, real pain in it, real fear. I should have run the other way, but I didn't. I followed it. It led me to another clearing, and for a second, hope flared up in my chest. There was a tent, new, yellow, not camo, not mouldy, normal. Next to it was a woman, barefoot, wrapped in a dirty sleeping bag, waving frantically. "Thank God," she sobbed. "I thought I was the only one left." I rushed over, my legs barely worked. I dropped next to her, asked what happened, who she was, how long she'd been out here. She didn't answer at first, just stared past me into the woods. "They took everyone else," she whispered. "They always do." I asked who. She didn't respond, just kept muttering. "They took everyone. They took everyone." Rocking slowly. I looked around. No bags, no food, just the tent and her. I asked where her gear was. "They don't like bags," she said flatly. It was off, the whole thing. Her clothes were too clean, her hair, even matted, was brushed, and her feet. There was no dirt, no cuts, no bruises, just clean skin, like she'd never walked out here at all. I backed away, she noticed. Her head tilted just a few degrees and she smiled. "You're smarter than the others." My heart dropped. She stood up, the sleeping bag falling away, revealing jeans. My jeans. My spare pair. The ones I left in my tent on night one. And then I saw them. Behind her. In the tree line. 3 figures. All barefoot. Watching. Not hiding anymore. Just standing there. Heads slightly tilted like they were waiting to see what I'd do. I ran. Again. But this time they chased. No more games. They ran fast. 1 behind me, 2 flanking. I could hear them breathing, not panting. Just that low, rhythmic inhale like animals pacing before the kill. I cut through brambles, slid down a hill. My arms were shredded, my leg nearly useless. But I kept going until I hit something solid. A road. Not a full one. Just gravel. But enough to mean maybe there was a ranger station nearby. A cabin. A person. I staggered onto it, waving my arms. I didn't care who I saw. I would have kissed a delivery truck. That's when the headlights hit me. A single car. A white SUV. It slowed, then stopped. The window rolled down. And the man inside was the same one from the cabin. The same smile, the same dead eyes. Except now, he was clean, wearing a Patagonia vest, hair slicked back, looked like a dad on his way to a ski trip. He tapped the wheel. "Need a ride?" I didn't move, not right away. I just stood there in the beam of his headlights, shaking, torn between every survival instinct screaming run, and that flicker of desperate, dying hope whispering, maybe this time it's real. He tapped the steering wheel again, eyes still on me. "You look like hell," he said, like we were old friends, like we knew each other. I took 1 step back. His smile didn't change. "You won't make it far, man, you know that, right? Look at you." He wasn't wrong. My shirt was torn, my hands were shaking, my face was probably blood and dirt and whatever else smeared across me from 3 days of running for my life. But something in his tone, the calmness, the familiarity, it told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't his first pickup. "How long have you been out here?" I croaked. He tilted his head. "Long enough." I looked behind me. The woman, the others. They hadn't followed onto the road. They just watched, waiting. "You with them?" I asked. He shrugged. "Sometimes. Depends who asks." That did it. I turned to run, but he didn't chase, just called after me, voice cool and even. "You ever wonder why none of them scream?" That stopped me. My breath hitched. He went on. "Everyone thinks they'll fight, that they'll be different. But the truth is, people like you always end up right where you're supposed to." I didn't look back. I couldn't. I ran until the gravel tore through the soles of my socks, until the stars started to blur, until I saw lights, real ones, a gas station. I must have looked like an animal when I stumbled in. The clerk actually dropped the phone he was holding. I collapsed on the floor, sobbing, begging for help. The cops came, an ambulance. They cleaned me up, asked questions. I told them everything, every twisted, impossible thing. They searched the area I gave them, sent rangers, dogs, drones. They found nothing, no tent, no cabin, no footprints, no photos, no barefoot cult, just trees and silence. The sheriff told me real gentle-like that stress and trauma can play tricks on the mind, that maybe I got lost, hit my head, hallucinated the rest. They always say that. But I know what I saw. I know what I felt. I know my car keys were still missing. And 3 weeks later, I got a package. No return address, just a small cardboard box. Inside, my lighter and a Polaroid of me, sleeping on the forest floor. Behind me, barely visible in the blur, was a man in a camo jacket, smiling.